And with us right now, we've got Anand Kishore. Anand, you are the founder and CEO of AspireIQ. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Josh. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So how does business get done today in terms of brands and, well, I'll let you say the word. I'll say influencers. Why does this work so well compared to other means of advertising and or marketing?
Yeah, I think kind of the root of this industry, we started about 7 years ago now. When we first got started, influencers weren't really a thing. I would say it was kind of just at the point where Instagram and YouTube were becoming really big at the kind of the scale they are today. And you had this rush of digital content creators kind of emerge and start putting their voice out and gaining meaningful followers. And so I think, really, we don't actually like to use the word influencer too much. I think it's fundamentally what we're really talking about is just people who are creating content and sharing their story, whatever that might be. Whether it's a fashion influencer or content creator, or it's a chef, home chef, or anything in between. Kind of really what we're talking about is just people who are sharing their voice, and kind of the core interaction here is one that's existed forever, which is brands want to be affiliated with great stories and people who have an interesting perspective, whether that's Audrey Hepburn, Michael Jordan, or your next door who's a home chef. So really that's kind of the root of it.
Yeah. And so the way that you explain the platform, unlike, you don't necessarily say, again, we're an influencer outreach platform, but that you're a community intelligence marketing platform that allows brands to identify important members of any community. And can you kind of explain why that language?
Yeah, great question. I think the core of any business is community, really. When you think about the things that really matter for a company, one of the most important things is identifying your real champions, right? Identifying people who are deeply passionate about what you are doing, who can articulate your value prop on your behalf, who can act as references or advocates. And so, I think that influencers are a piece of your community. They're people who can help amplify your voice and spread the message more broadly. But a community is not just an influencer, right? Communities can be made up of customers, of partners, of distributors, of your employees, affiliates, so many different content creators, photographers, videographers, so many different personas that touch your business and can have an impact and drive value for you. Really, the way we think about it is our goal is to be the system of record for your community, no matter who you're working with within that universe of high value relationships.
Yeah. What are the trends that you're seeing in terms of those who may have influence within a community, or they serve a larger community? What movement have you seen? It's particularly, I think it's been a very weird and unsettling string of events in 2020. But I'm curious how that
might be the understatement.
to put it lightly, right? But in terms of, here we are midway through 2020 or in June 2020. What have you seen since the beginning of this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a year. I would say the high level is that everything that we had seen prior has really accelerated in many ways, right? You're finding brands realizing that they need to move to digital much faster than before. It's no longer an option given COVID-19 and everything associated with what's happening in retail. You're finding e-commerce booming as everybody's shifting online. You're finding that brands are realizing that they need to have a direct relationship with their customers. It's no longer enough to just shout at them in a more personal way, which is kind of what, the traditional marketing automation stack allows for. You need to really have a deep connection with them, and the brands that invest in their people, not their channels, not just their channels, are the brands that are going to really, survive and thrive in this next wave. And so, I think a lot of those trends were true before, but I think really the events of the last 6 months have accelerated all of that. I would also say one of the bigger trends around community specifically is just the move towards, these subcultures online, or these interest groups, right? You're seeing that with Facebook. Facebook is investing a lot in Facebook groups because they're realizing people want to be connected with those local, kind of localized interest groups. You're seeing that with the rise of Discord, which is a video game chat platform. Started out as a video game chat platform, but now has 250 million users and has really just exploded in terms of people being interested in it. And so I think that trend is really interesting in the sense that people, now that you've kind of hit peak social, right? Now that you can be connected to everybody in the world, around any topic in the world, people are now realizing that they want to focus on the things that really matter to them and resonate with them personally. So you're seeing this kind of unbundling of the internet in some ways, where everybody's kind of finding their tribe, so to speak, virtual tribe, wherever they are.
If I'm a brand and I want to get centers of influence talking about my brand, what would you say would be some of the best practices for encouraging that organically? And we'll stop right. I'll ask you part two after that. How do we get centers of influence to talk about our brand organically?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think at the end of the day, this is about real relationships with people, and you can't short circuit relationships. At the end of the, bottom line is you have to build a real relationship, and the way to do that is to not just focus. I mean, foundationally, one of the things that I think a lot of brands have been able to get away with historically is this idea of value extraction. So everything is about extracting value from your community, and I think there's a new wave of brands that are realizing that consumers are more values aligned. Gen Z is a great example of this. They deeply care about their values and whether or not the products they're purchasing are aligned with those values. And they're voting with their wallets, right? And they're actually going and supporting brands that align with those and stand for something. You're obviously seeing that with the huge outpouring of support for Black Lives Matter and everything that's been going on more recently, where brands are really taking a stand and realizing that they need to take a stand to continue to connect with their consumers. So I think one of the first things is you just have to invest in your relationships. You have to stand for something. You have to identify people that align with those values, and you need to go support them and nurture those relationships versus just having this very transactional mindset to try to constantly drive somebody to just buy more stuff from you. People will buy more stuff from you, but it's just like a relationship. If you're only trying to take from it, it's not going to last very long. You have to try to give something to it as well.
I think from a brand perspective, it takes a lot of faith on behalf of the upper leadership to get on board with that. I could tell you one brand that I've done, as sort of a micro macro influencer on the consumer side. I've done a lot of work with USAA, and I've learned a lot from them from both sides of it. One thing I can tell you is, in my work with them, number one, they really haven't paid me a whole lot of money, but they've really done well to enroll me into their community. Yeah, they, me along with a lot of other folks that, may have some larger communities. We've been able to go visit the headquarters. We've done some fun events together. We kind of piggybacked on some other events and kind of done these informal meetups. They're really, really good at building this community. And I admire that they've made those investments and that, again, I know the people whose, idea it was, and it was hard to get that permission to do that, to say, listen, rather than take this transactional approach with influencers, what we're going to do is we're actually going to build our own internal community of people who have their own communities and find out what they listen, have them listen for us. And similarly, we'll listen to them. And, it's a great, I just think it's a brilliant, again, if you can get the top leadership of a brand to get on board with this and see the value of this, it's, again, I think a lot of people go to transactional because they want that quick thing. Like, listen, I give you $1,000 and I've done a lot of these deals too. And you talk about my mattress and, done. So, what do you think in terms of like, what are you seeing? And I know you've had the opportunity to work with a lot of big brands. Is this sense of investing into these relationships something I hope that's becoming more and more prevalent?
Yeah, I think more and more brands are realizing that, the root of their business is truly community. I think Glossier is a good example of this in the beauty space. They started out as a blog and really as a community first, and then happened to start selling products on the back of that and are now a massively successful, incredible company. But, they coined the phrase democratic beauty to explain this philosophy that like everyone should have a voice about its products. And they really take a more co-creation kind of approach with their business. And that's, had a lot of long-term benefit for them because consumers feel like they are involved. They feel like they're a part of the brand. And at the end of the day, I don't think community is the idea of community is counter to your bottom line. It's actually critical to your bottom line.
Gosh, yeah. Yeah, I was special.
You're not investing in your
go ahead. I'm sorry.
In the long run, your LTV will be lower.
Listen, I don't even know what Glossier sells, but all I know is that those boxes arrive at my house for my wife, and I know my daughter as well. So obviously they're doing something right because they tend to deliver a lot of boxes to our house.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, did I cut out there? I apologize.
And I apologize. I may have interrupted as well. So in terms of, our own, are there any other really great ideas that you would recommend in terms of like, if I've got a brand, and I do, so with all my influence, I know with Savings Angel, building and facilitating that community, people would come for that initial offer, right? Because they're curious about what's going on, but they stay for the community. What are some great ways that you think brands could do better to build their own communities?
I think the first step to building any community is really to identify your champions, right? Identify those people that are already passionate and are already interested in your products and your offering. Go build real relationships with them and start by seeding your community with those people. That's the easiest and lowest hanging fruit. And it's also mission critical because, if you don't have those early champions, then you don't have that foundation upon which to build upon. I think, once you've identified those people, I think the next thing, and maybe even before that, is just thinking about what are you hoping to accomplish with your community? What do you hope to contribute to them as well? So not only what are your goals to get out of this community, but what are you going to be able to provide to them? So there's a lot that you can do with a community. It's anything from driving brand awareness to creating content to boosting engagement or retention to product feedback, driving additional sales. There's a community can have an impact in a variety of different ways. So really thinking through your programming around those relationships. So each type of relationship will have a different engagement model and a different path, a different journey in your community to really become more engaged. And so I'm trying to map that out a little bit up front so you have a sense of, who are the different personas in my community? Why do they matter to me? And what do I hope to accomplish with them over time? I think is, will give you the foundation to really build a successful program. And from there, obviously, having a platform, obviously I'm biased, but, having a platform to help manage all of that, given, kind of the scale of some of these communities and the complexity of it, I think becomes really important. Just because, one of the things we see a lot with our customers, for example, is you have so many different touch points with your community, and all of a sudden you have your left hand isn't talking to your right hand. And there is this unified kind of perspective and shared knowledge around these relationships. And I think that can be, really important to maintain the humanity of those relationships, so they don't feel like they're just being kind of leveraged for your goals.
Yeah, can you, again, just very specifically, how does AspireIQ, how does someone use the platform, and what is the outcome that they get from using this platform?
Well, is to, community type can drive.
Anand, I'm going to have you
on social media or in your, in your Shopify data.
Anand, let me have you answer that question from the top, because it was completely cut out. And whenever you're ready.
Okay, let me.
So tell me how the Aspire, and we only have about 5 minutes left. This is my last question. So really just, I'll re-ask the question, and we'll have my editor edit that out. Okay. So Anand, how specifically does the AspireIQ platform work to help identify?
Jump in. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are we back?
I think so. Can you hear
Okay.
me now?
Let me ask this. I'm going to ask this final question, and then we'll just edit this together. So Anand, sorry. So Anand, the AspireIQ platform, how specifically does this work then for a brand who's looking to identify those community members? How does this help solve this problem?
Yeah, so really the first step to building your community is to identify your community. So our platform allows you to build, identify, build, grow, and nurture those relationships at scale. So, the first kind of piece of it is to identify these relationships, whether they're on social or in your commerce data on Shopify, wherever those relationships might live. Unify that data, provide insights into that data so that you can understand who matters to you most and in what context. We provide tools to onboard those relationships and streamline that onboarding process. And then we provide a robust system of record to help organize and manage those relationships at scale. So really providing you the toolkits to engage these relationships in a more authentic and human way versus when you think about marketing automation tools or CRM tools, which work in the context of funnels, pipelines. The goal here is to actually nurture these relationships over time. So that's providing toolkits to create content, providing toolkits to invite people to events, to track performance from an analytics perspective in terms of sales generated, or the impact of their social advocacy, and then lastly, kind of really putting all that together in terms of pulling data across a variety of different sources to give you a unified view of each of these relationships, to understand what kind of an impact they're having on your business, so that you understand which ones to be doubling down on and investing in going forward as well.
Now, this is all on the web at AspireIQ.com. So it's AspireIQ.com. And in terms of like pricing, is this pretty much for enterprise level companies, or who would be a good user of the platform?
Yeah, we definitely started with the enterprise customers over the course of the last 5-6 years, and have really focused in on that market. We are definitely open to business for anybody though, and I think we're finding really great traction and value across all markets, from SMB to mid-market to enterprise. So yeah, it really is a solution for any business.
Mm-hmm. And what would be the best way? I mean, obviously they could visit your website, but is there any, if someone says, listen, this sounds really good, what would be another great way that they can kind of really learn not just about the Aspire platform, but also, maybe there's something that they can learn just given some of the content that we've talked about. Maybe it's, engaging better with community leaders, any piece of pillar content or anything that you would highly recommend?
Yeah, definitely. We have an amazing content marketing team that is always churning out great pieces. So there's a lot of material on our blog. We recently released a community intelligence marketing report that kind of outlines some of the key trends that we're seeing. We'll be releasing a lot more content around the idea of community and the value of community over the course of the rest of the year as well. So kind of keeping tabs on our blog. We're always hosting events as well. Obviously all virtual today, but virtual happy hours and summits and chats to bring people together to share best practices and ask questions, and really thinking about our customer base and our prospects as our community as well, and allowing them to learn from each other in addition to from us. There's a lot of different ways to engage with us, and really focus. Our focus is really on educating the market on how important this is. So I'm always happy to engage.
I think my audience would really love the Influencer Academy as well, Influencer Marketing Academy.
Yep.
So if I'm on your website right now, if you just scroll down, you'll find where you can join the AspireIQ Influencer Marketing Academy, which looks super valuable. It's 10-part course. So thank you for giving that away. All right, Anand Kishore.
Yeah, definitely.
Again,
there's a lot of great.
Yeah, Anand Kishore, you're the founder and CEO of AspireIQ. Again, it's a SaaS solution that allows brands to identify those members within your community, reach out, build relationships. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Josh. Great to be here.